Okay, it's been a while since we've been to the Husqvarna. I finally got all the parts that we needed for it. So the Husqvarna it had a massive oil leak, and it was leaking underneath the valve covers. It also is misfiring. One of the cylinders, there's two cylinders, this is a V-twin thing, is misfiring occasionally. Now, it could be that one of the ignition coils is going bad, and it could be that the valve cover somehow is allowing oil to get into that spark plug area, so it misfires. So I went ahead and ordered two new valve cover gaskets, two new ignition coils, and since it came in a set, and two new spark plugs. And we'll just go ahead and change everything. Then we'll run it for an hour, see if it misfires again, see if it leaks oil. Now, the problem with this one is I'm going to use Permatex Ultra Black, which is a silicone. I'm going to use that on there, so I won't be able to start it today. I have to wait 24 hours and start it tomorrow. So after I cleaned up the engine and got all the oil off of it, I went ahead and put the shroud back on so I could run it to see if I could see any other oil leaks. I didn't see any, so I'm going to take the 3 nuts and screws out that I put in to hold it in there temporarily, and then we'll get in there to the ignition coils. There's the ignition coil on this side and the ignition coil on this side. So we'll go ahead and remove those, take the spark plug wire off, disconnect the shutoff wires. Stator, I'm going to put it on, put the shutoff wire on it. Get my feeler gauge, a 10 thousandths feeler gauge. We're going to put it up against the magnet here. This is the magnet. Put that there. And then we're going to put this on the other side of the feeler gauge. Take the feeler gauge out, then we'll do it to the other side. Again, we'll put the shutoff wire on, then we'll move the magnet over to this side. There's the magnet. Feeler gauge, 10 thousandths. Before I put new spark plugs in, is I'm going to try to start this with the old spark plugs just to make sure that the ignition coils are working. The oil is still leaking really bad because I haven't changed the valve cover gaskets yet. When I started it up, it smoked real bad because the oil is dripping onto the muffler. So now I'm going to change the spark plugs. I would imagine these are pretty critted up with as much leakage as we got on this thing. They're hot because I just ran it. Oh yeah, look at that. They're really carboned up. So now we're going to gap the spark plug, and so we want a 30 thousandths to be able to go in there freely, and it won't. It's too tight. So now 30 thousandths goes in. Now we don't want 35 to go in, but it did, so I gapped it too much. So 30 thousandths goes in, 35 does not. Now we got to do the other side. So we're going to gap this one also, 30 thousandths, too small. Thirty thousandths goes in, 35 should not. 35 does not. So now what I want to do is I want to change the gaskets on the valve covers before I run it too long, and then we'll take it for a test drive, you know, a half hour or so, make sure it's working. While I'm in here, I will also check the gap of the valves to make sure they are correct. There's no reason to be in here and not check them. It's easy to do. It did, it had a bad gasket, several spots, so we got to clean all that up and then put a new gasket, and I'll put Permatex on it. While I'm in here though, let's check the gap on the valves. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure one of the valves are down and the other one's up. So that one's up, that one's down. We're going to gap it at 4 thousandths, and it's definitely too loose. Okay, so I got 7 thousandths and 4 thousandths. 4 thousandths is what the gap's supposed to be at the minimal, but no more than 7. So, and 7 goes in there quite easy. So we need to adjust this down to 4. So what you got to do is you got to unlock the locking nut, which is a torque screw. So you stick the torque screw in there and you unlock it. And then in order to reduce the gap, you turn the nut tighter. And then we're going to stick our 4 thousandths gauge in there again. Still loose. That's too much. Right there. Now we have it set right there. Then you tighten the locking nut, the locking torque screw. Then we're going to check it again just to make sure. That did it. So 4 goes in there, 7 does not. Then we're going to bring this one out, this one in. 4, 7 goes right in it. I'm going to tighten this one up just to make sure I got it tight. Four, 7. Okay, 7 doesn't go in, but 4 does. Okay, so I took the cover off, and then I cleaned with a Scotch-Brite pad both the cover and the surface. Then I used carburetor cleaner. Oh, that was starter fluid. I used carburetor cleaner somewhere around here, and cleaned it all up real good. And then I put a layer of Permatex on the cover. Then I laid a gasket like this on top of the Permatex, and then I put another layer of Permatex on top of the gasket. Permatex says to do that, there's 3 ways you can use Permatex. Well, 3 ways you can put a gasket on. One, just put the gasket on. Or you can just make a gasket out of Permatex. Or do what I just did. And this is Permatex, this is the Ultra Black. So now, we'll put it on there. I'm going to do this in a star pattern. And you're only going to tighten it until you get the Permatex to start to squeeze out. Then you're going to let it dry for 2 hours, and then you'll tighten it the rest of the way. Okay, it squeezed out there, I saw it. This is the next day. I've waited 24 hours on the nose for that silicone or that Permatex to dry around the valve covers. I mowed the entire yard. We had no power loss, so both cylinders firing. That means the starting solenoids are both working, or starting coils, excuse me. And we have no leaks on those overhead valve covers. Thanks for watching.